Today, we're going to be starting a new series. I'm going to be reviewing some books, starting with this one, Cold Climate Gardening by Lewis Hill. Now, I know books aren't the most exciting subject. They're on the more boring end of the spectrum of gardening subjects. But I believe there's some really important information to be found in one of these, if only we have the patience to go look for it. Now, if you're like me and you've destroyed your attention span by being on the internet for years, that's okay. I'll let you know whether the book that I'm reviewing is available on audiobook in the description below. To start off our series, we're going to be talking about this book, Cold Climate Gardening by Lewis Hill. How to extend your growing season by at least 30 days. The number 30 isn't very big, but that's a whole month. And it's a whole month of growing that we might not otherwise have in Alaska and other places in the north. So stay tuned and I'll walk you through the pros and cons of this book, and at the end I'll tell you whether I recommend it or not. Let's go. Pro number 1, on-target knowledge. This book is packed with really relevant information, including drawings, diagrams, illustrations, you name it. There's even a description of ice, snow, and road salt damage and how to avoid it on page 144. That's oddly specific for northern states, but it's just the kind of information that I need to know as an Alaskan in zones 1, 2, and 3. Pro number 2, long lists of potential plant varieties. The possibilities are almost endless. Once you've learned about your growing zone and how you can extend the season, you'll want to know, okay, what's next? You're never going to wonder what to grow next, and the possibilities are really surprising once you have a few tricks up your sleeve. In each section of the book, he has a list of all the varieties that can be applied to the method that he's talking about, and there are tons. Pro number 3. Lewis Hill has a lot of experience and many years of gardening under his belt, so those who want to hear the true stories behind the methods that he's developed, there are plenty of real anecdotes to follow in this book. Lewis Hill takes decades of his experience and puts them right to use. He explains the stories behind the technique that he's developed and then explains the technique and how to use it for yourself. So he really covers the whole gambit. Now, this book is packed with information. It's awesome. But there are a few things that I wish could be better about it. Con number 1. Lewis Hill didn't have any degrees, at least not ones that are listed in this book. Not for agriculture, biology, or anything like that. Nor are there any scientific studies listed in the back of this book or cited anywhere. So if you're looking for something with some research backup, then you'll have to look elsewhere. Now, we love our oral history and we absolutely respect experience. Sometimes experience can get you what research just simply cannot. But if you're looking to be nerdy and get into the weeds of why things really work and the science behind them, you're going to have to look elsewhere. Con number 2. This was written in 1981. That was 42 years ago. Therefore, it might be a little outdated when it comes to climate science and organic techniques, two fields that have developed amazingly in the past 50 years. Even the Cooperative Extension Master Gardeners course that I took recently is extremely different than the way that it was about 40 years ago when my grandmother took it. But that's another topic for another time. Con number 3, it doesn't cover Alaska. In fact, it doesn't really cover Zone 1 at all. If you look on the map in the very beginning of the book, it shows the upper United States, Canada, and here, right up here, is Zone 1. That's it. It doesn't even have Alaska on the map. Though obviously we have mostly the same climate as most of Canada, there's a lot of sections in the very far north that it might not cover, and the variety lists dwindle quickly as you go north. For example of why this matters, he mentions corn and how easy it is to grow in the north. Where I live, in Fairbanks, it's a little too far north for most corn, and you have to keep a black drape over the fields in order to keep the soil warm enough to get it to grow. Again, not a rule. You can probably get anything to work if you try hard enough. But you may take a look at this book, realize you're in zone 1, and the advice here doesn't really apply to you. In cases like this, it's probably better to go to your native elders and ask them what cultivation practices have worked best for them for the past several thousand years. Con number 4. It is a block of text. Now, there are illustrations, there are drawings, there are pictures, but for the most part, it's a bit of a read, and it's over 300 pages long. So if you're a millennial like me, or you've simply destroyed your attention span by being on the internet too long, shout out YouTube, it may be better if you want to gain the knowledge that's in this book to go find an audiobook version. Unfortunately, this book, Cold Climate Gardening, is just too old and too obscure to be found on Audible, but you may be able to find it elsewhere on the internet. If so, let me know in the comments down below. I want to know. So, all in all, would I recommend this book? Short answer, yes, absolutely. Over 300 pages of variety lists and techniques that you can use to optimize your garden in the north. We're talking zones 2 through 5. Any further south or any further north, the book just doesn't cover because it is about cold climate gardening specifically. If you're somebody who is serious about large production or you want to dive deep into a particular subject, I would recommend maybe a textbook, a biology textbook or an agriculture textbook that can get you really in the weeds of some scientific background. This book is probably also not for someone who needs to look up a single topic and move on with their life. It's an in-depth read, but the information contained, I think, is really worth it. Have you read this book? Do you like it? Would you recommend it to others? What other cold climate gardening, Alaska gardening, or just general gardening advice books have you read and would you recommend? List them in the comments below, and who knows, I might do a book review on them. We'll catch you next time when we talk about Andy Roberts and her book, The Alaska Gardening Guide. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll talk to you soon.